Yeah. The Bible says that God was walking in the cool of the day with Adam and Eve. But then, here on the announcements, we hear that we're going to be playing soccer in the heat of the day. Who does that? So if we lose, you know why? We're going to be like heat exhausted. But thank you for organizing the soccer match. And tonight I'm going to be starting with my exercise and stuff. Ladies, we need you to be there and cheer for us because we're going to win no matter what. Yeah. All right. Laura and the kids, of course, they came back and they are present with us today. Well, welcome back home. So, without further ado, can we please open up Bibles in 2 Samuel chapter 2? Let's pray. Father in heaven, we thank you so much for this beautiful Sunday morning. Thank you for the beautiful crowd and our beautiful area, Nkumba, and our beautiful country, Uganda. Lord, thank you that you've given us such an opportunity to come before you with joy and thanksgiving. May you please continue to enrich our hearts with your word. May your word continue to sanctify us because we know that your word is the truth. Lord, as I speak, please use me as your mouthpiece, that I may speak the oracles of your word. Use every part of me to deliver your word. And I pray for all of us, the listeners, that we will not only be listeners, but also doers of your word. Thank you so much. We thank you for the new babies that have been born in our congregation. And we thank you for all the great things that you've done for all of us as a church, individually. And in your name we pray. Amen. So, previously, I always like to say on Prison Break, because I used to watch a lot of Prison Break, and at every start of the episode, they would say, previously on Prison Break. And then they take you back to the things that you saw. So, I'm also going to do the same thing. Previously, in 2 Samuel chapter 2, we saw David asking God where he should go. Because he wasn't so sure exactly whether he should go back to Bethlehem or go to Gibeah. He didn't know where God wanted him to go. So he asked for God's will in his new start of the journey. And God was faithful that he was able to answer him and told him, go to Hebron. And when he went to Hebron, that's where all the elders of Judah came and anointed him again to be their king. And the rest of the tribes of Israel, the 11 tribes, they continued following the house of Saul. And we saw that Abner, the army commander of Saul's army, was able to pick up a random guy. I'm going to call him random because this is the first time we ever hear about his name. And his name is Ishbosheth. And he made him king over the other tribes. And people were happy with the arrangement. And there was division in the country. People were given a choice. Who are they going to follow? Should they follow Saul's house, or should they follow David? But right now, David has the minority, or David's kingdom is the minority. So we have two disputed kings. One has to be the rightful ruler, and one is an imposter. One has a crown, one doesn't have a crown. One has a crowd, one has no crowd. And the crazy thing is, the imposter has a big crowd. And the rightful ruler with the crown has the less crowd. And it was so obvious that people were willing to follow the wrong person. And it is so obvious that not every big crowd we should follow it. Or just because everybody's doing something, it doesn't mean that we all have to be doing it. And because Abner has chosen to disobey, or has chosen to go parallel according to God's will, he has refused to let go of this house of Saul, even after knowing that God had rejected the house of Saul, even knowing that David was supposed to be the king, but he refused to let go for various reasons, which we discussed last time, but I'm going to kind of repeat them a little bit. For starters, he wanted to remain in control, to be in charge. He could not picture himself not the army commander anymore. But also, on top of that, he realized that, you know what? He can have a puppet king whom he can actually toss back and forth about what he can do. But also, he was like enjoying to run the show at the detriment of other people. He chooses to go the different way. So now today we are going to see the consequences of not letting go. Abner and all the house of Saul, they had to accept what God had put in place. And what was that? It was that David was the king. But they refused to let go. They refused to let go of the throne. They refused to let go of the crown. They refused to let go of the people. And I feel like God is screaming, let my people go. Just like Pharaoh. God is saying, let my people go. But Pharaoh is like, no, I'm not letting them go. Because you see, once you get used to having people serving you and doing your bid, it's not easy thing to say, okay, let them go. Once you taste that little bit of that power, it's not easy to not have it again. Here in verses 12, it says, now Abner, the son of Ner, and the servants of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, went out from Mahanaim to Gibeon. And Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and the servants of David went out and met them by the pool of Gibeon. So they sat down, one on one side of the pool, and the other on the other side of the pool. Then Abner said to Joab, let the young men now arise and compete for us, or compete before us. And Joab said, let them arise. So they arose and went over by number, 12 from Benjamin, followers of Ishbosheth the son of Saul, and 12 from the servants of David. And each one grasped his opponent by the head and thrust his sword in his opponent's side. So they fell down together. Therefore that place was called the field of sharp swords, which is in Gibeon. So there was a very fierce battle that day, and Abner and the men of Israel were beaten before the servants of David. Now, like I said, we have two disputed kings. They are all ruling one country. And they are supposed to be only one king for one people. But now you have two kings for one people. And of course, when you have two kings ruling the same people, you expect to have a showdown. You expect that one time they are going to collide. You expect that once everyone is not happy, they are going to find a way to find one undisputed ruler. And here, Abner, for those of you who were not here last Sunday, you'll be like, who's Abner? Abner actually was Saul's cousin. And now he got his nephew Ishbosheth and set him to be the king, because he still wanted the reign to remain in the house, in the family. Even when God had already prepared, it was supposed to be a smooth transfer of power. But because of the hardness of the house of Saul, they refused to have that smooth transition of power. Starting from the head, Saul himself. Saul began fighting David. Saul began hunting down David like a hound dog. And he chased him from one mountain to another. He chased him from one cave to another. He took him from one desert to another desert, until the day Saul died. And I happen to believe that had Saul been an obedient man, and he allowed what God had already said, had Saul been a man who is of understanding and a man who had a repentant heart, he would have been like, you know what? If God has chosen David to be the ruler, I'm going to abdicate. I'm going to let go of my reins, and I'm going to let David go ahead and take off. And I will just go back and take care of my animals, because we know he had many animals. Even before they chose him to be king, he was going to look after his father's donkeys. They were a rich family. Saul came from a rich family. They had a lot of riches and a lot of animals. But he refused to accept what God had already said. And on different occasions, God had said, I have chosen David to take over. I have chosen David to take over. He said, there's no more Saul's dynasty. This dynasty is dead. You can call it the Saul's project. It was supposed to be a dead project. But Saul refuses to kill the project. Saul refuses to let go of what God had told him to go. And he fought with all his might to keep that which had already passed through the cracks of his fingers. And I don't want to blame Saul so very much, because I feel like most of us are more like Saul. Wow, that God sometimes tells us to let go certain things in our lives, and it's so hard to let them go. It's so hard to let go of some things that you feel like you are attached to them. Things that you feel like they make meaning to you. Some of us refuse to let go of things because of nostalgia. What is nostalgia? That is being sentimental. Oh, I love this thing so much. How can I let go of it? My wife was telling me a story in America. There's a pastor we know, and we love him so very much. Very good pastor. You know, in America, all the churches have the steeples. What are the steeples? They are these long, they go upwards like a pyramid. But this steeple is old, had gotten too old. And it had become now a liability, dangerous, that at any moment it will come crashing down. And God forbid, the pastor was worried that one day it may come down and hit people and maybe cause injury. And you don't do that in America, because those are series of lawsuits that the church can't even recover from. But the pastor, the more he went to the people whom he is supposed to talk to, is like, hey, when you take down the steeple, they're like, oh, we're going to take down our steeple. It's been here since the church began. How can we not have it? The people are attached to the steeple that even when it's dangerous for everyone, they still want to they want to keep it, they want to see it, they want to say, we want to be seeing it. But it's dangerous. Isn't it so? Similar to all of us, or to some of us. Some of us have bad habits in life that you know they are bad for you. And God says, this habit is bad for you. You need to let it go. But you're like, but how am I going to let it go? How can I? Sometimes it could be friends. Bad friends, toxic friends for you. They always lead you to bad places, to bad thinking. And God says, you know what? If you really want to grow in your Christian life, you need to let go of that friend of yours because, you see, they're not helping. It could be a business. And that business is driving you farther and farther away from God. And God's like, you know what? That business is not really going to cut a cake for you. You need to let it go. Sometimes it could be a trip. You are planning to go somewhere, but wherever it is that you want to go, God is saying, you know what? You cannot go to that place because the moment you reach there, things are not going to be good for you. It could be a desire that you just like and you are the only one who knows it. But it's a bad desire. It's a forbidden desire. You shouldn't have that desire, but you like it. It could be smoking cigarettes. And you know, every time you say, I want to stop smoking. I want to quit smoking. But again, you feel like you cannot let go of smoking or drinking. We all have certain things in our lives that we don't want to let go. So for him it was power. It was his seat, his throne. Because you know what? The reasons why we do not want to let go of things is because the things that God sometimes is asking us to let go are the same things that we think defines us. It's like, how will people know me without this? How will people see me without this? Last week I talked about a lady who shared with me her story. Her story was, God told her, you need to let go of wearing pants, like long trousers. Now, that's not a command from the Bible. God doesn't say, oh, women, you should never, ever, ever wear trousers in your life because I don't like it. No, there's no such a verse in the Bible that forbids women to wear pants. No. But this was personal. This was personal for this special lady. Why? Because this lady, God gave her such a good figure. And every time she was wearing these pants, she was turning necks. That's right. But also, these trousers were doing something inside of her too. Every time she wore them, she's like, they're dead. She's like, look at me. So, God's like, you know what? Let it go. Because it's not going to be helpful for you. And she had to accept it. She had to let go of wearing those pants. Even though she looked really, really cool and awesome in them. You know, for me, God asked me to let go of coffee. It was such an easy one. No, He did not actually tell me to do that. For me, this guy called DJ Patrick from Malta, he came here to visit, and this guy is so bold-headed, and he loves reggae music, and we had such fun together. We threw an outside party outside the church, and it was spinning discs and stuff like that. And then he's like, hey chief, you want to taste some of my coffee? It's like, yeah. So I took it to my house, and he brewed his coffee. He put in chili peppers in it, and then it was smelling so cool, and then he gave me to drink it. Man, for 3 straight days, I'm down. That was my clue that don't drink coffee anymore. So, right now, don't give me your coffee. I don't want it. What is that one thing that you feel like you've been struggling to let go? It could be a lost, beloved one who died a long time ago and they meant something to you. You refuse to accept, or you refuse to let them go. You're still holding on to them. It could be a relationship. Someone left you, but they left you hanging and you don't want to come down. You say, I want to remain there dangling in the air. Maybe they will come and rescue me. It could be a lost property. all have those things that we struggle to let go of. Now, as Saul was struggled all his life to let go of the throne, now the guy, his cousin Abner, is also struggling with the same thing of not letting go of this thing that God has said, let go. Now he's passing it on to the next generation. He's picking up Saul's son called Ishbosheth. And you know the meaning of the name Ishbosheth? It's called the man of shame. He's a man of shame. So he's picking up a man of shame and he's putting him in a position of honor. Just like the Jews, their fathers, they refused actually to the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin and the high priest, they refused to let go of their powers, and they say Jesus must die, because if he doesn't die, all our powers are gone, all our influence is gone, we must kill him. And then they took him to Pilate. And they say, he needs to die. And Pilate was like, I don't see anything wrong with this man. I don't see why he should die. They said, we said he need to die. And if you don't kill him, we're going to tell Caesar that you and this man, you're trying to cook up something. And then, the guy was scared after that. He's like, I don't want this news to go to Caesar. Then he beat him up. He said, behold the man. They said, we don't want him beat, we want him dead. Then he looked for another way to save Jesus. So he said, you know what? Let me go into the prison and look out for the most notorious man ever lived. And he picked out who? Barabbas. And he put him toe to toe with Jesus. He said, whom should I release? Because he thought people are going to contrast and compare. The Bible says that Jesus went about doing what? Doing good, healing the sick, and releasing those who are oppressed. That was his testimony. That was his profile. And then when you read the profile of this guy, Barabbas, and if they took a mugshot for him, I could see this guy with teeth that is just broken because he was always in fights. He's not brushed, has all sorts of gunk in it, and his hair is all unkempt, and his clothes dirty and stinky. And then they put him side by side with Jesus. They say, whom should I release? The crowd say, Barabbas. And then they say, what shall I do with this man? They say, crucify him. How we always pick the wrong people. How we always bet on the wrong horse. Now here we are. Abner is continuing with letting go and is actually passing it to the next generation. Now let me tell you something. Maybe you've been here and you've been struggling with something that you should let go. Something maybe also your parents passed on to you. Let me beg on you. Do not pass that to the next generation. Let it die with you. This thing had to die with Saul. But look, it has gone to the next generation. It could be a hatred that was passed on. So such and such our relative, we don't get along. And then your father told you that, or your mother told you that. You refuse to let go of those people because maybe they did something genuinely bad to your family. And you feel like, I'll never forgive them because my father told me what they did to him. And then you also bring up children, and then you also reiterate the same story your father told you about that family. You see that family, you see your uncle, you see your auntie, you see blah, blah, blah. Do not mingle with them. Do not interact with them because they are bad people. My father told me A, B, C, D. You see? We are carrying on with something that we should not carry on with. We are passing on something that should not be passed on. Now Ishbosheth is caught in the midst. Now here we are. There's always going to be consequences of not letting go of things in our lives. Here we are. Now after Abner, the son of Ner, and the servants of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, went from Mahanaim to Gibeon. And then Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and the servants of David went out to meet them by the pool of Gibeon. So they sat down. You see, now, I don't know even how they sent messages to each other. But I'm telling you that the side of David was itching for a fight. Because they are upset. Why? They should be in power. Yes, they're in power, but this power. They want all of it. Because they know it's theirs. God had already given it to them. But then these guys came from nowhere, and then they took most of it. So they've been upset for some good time. And then also, the house of Saul is like, we've been running this thing for the last 40 years. Are we not yet ready to let it go? As a matter of fact, let's meet. You want to see who is in charge? You want to see who has the power here, the real power? Let's meet by the pool. They did not meet at the pool to swim. Actually, they met at the pool to swim in blood. Because this was going to be a bloodbath. So let's meet. Everybody knew why they were going to meet. This was not about meet and greet. Say, hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? How is your camp? My camp is good. Are you good, bro? Yes, I'm good. This was not about exchanging cups of coffee or teas. Like, hey, have a cup of coffee and a cake. No. These were two opposing sides. These were two sides that did not like each other. And look what Abner proposes when they meet. Verses 14 says, it says that, then Abner said to Joab, let the young man now arise and compete for us. It looks innocent. Looks like an innocent invitation. Oh yeah, young man, come and compete for us. You might think they are going to be maybe running around and see who's the fastest runner. Or they are going to be competing who can eat the most donuts. Who can eat the fastest? Who can eat jackfruit the fastest? No, this competition is different. Now listen, these are two army generals that I've met. And in their mind, they are thinking about fighting. And then Joab said, let them arise. He did not decline the invitation. Now if you're a young man, on both sides, you'll be like, uh-oh. 15 says, so they arose and went by number, 12 from Benjamin, followers of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, and 12 from the servants of David. 16, it says, each one grasped his opponent by the head and thrust his sword in his opponent's side, so they fell down together. Therefore, that place was called the field of sharp swords, which is in Gibeon. Now you can know who Abner is. Abner is a terrible man. Abner's mean, so is Joab. Now, 24 young men died on spot. Why is this a sport? These are real lives. These young men had mothers. They had fathers. Maybe they even had wives. But then you just say, come and compete for us. And then they come and clap. And then they fall down just aimlessly. Abner, Joab, what are you doing? You see, some people, after killing so many people, they get numb. to see other lives being lost. Abner is numb at this point, and I think Joab is numb also. They are letting people die for no good reason. 24 people, right there, they're dead. Verse 16 says, and each one, I've already read that, but I'm going to read it again. So each one grasped his opponent by the head and thrust his sword in his opponent's side, so they fell down together. Therefore, the place was called the Field of Sharp Swords, which is in Gibeon. 17. He says, so there was a very fierce battle that day, and Abner and the men of Israel were beaten before the servants of David. Now, if Abner thought this was funny, it ended up not being funny. Have you ever been when you're a child playing? Like me when I was a child, we used to play this game called Tai. How many of you played that game, Tai? Yeah. Tai is from Taekwondo, of course. But Tai, you just kick yourselves. So we could gather and say, you know what, let's play Tai, and we just kick ourselves. But it's a game. You don't have any animosity towards any person, but you're boys, and boys are going to be boys. Boys are going to fight. Boys are going to kick themselves. And we did that so many times. My mother never liked that game. And I'm sure all the mothers would not be happy seeing their boys kicking themselves, But we did. And sometimes we could kick ourselves so hard that what was a game ends up to be a real fight. And if this was supposed to be a game, it ended up to be a fierce fight. And now they say that, you know what? Verse 17 has said, there was a very fierce battle that day, and Abner and the men of Israel were beaten before the servants of David. You see, Abner is actually losing. He called for this thing, but, he's losing it. He's losing the battle. You see, you cannot fight to keep that which you have already lost. Abner has been trying to keep that which has been lost. But the more he fights, the more the weakness shows up in his camp. There is a quote that I'm trying to remember. I think it's from William Carey, missionary from India. But no, not William Carey. It's this guy, Jim Elliot. Who's Jim Elliot? Jim Elliot is a missionary who went in the Amazon to those native Indians. He was a pilot. But then he had a heart to reach out to the lost. And those, mostly the unreached. So he went in the Amazon areas, deep there in the jungle. And he began preaching the good news. He went by his airplane. It was a yellow one. And he began dropping gifts. And then he made contact with the people. But there was a certain misunderstanding between him and the natives. And they speared him. They killed him. But this guy and his friends, they had guns. They could have shot all these natives down, but they said, how can we kill the people we have come to save? So they gave up their lives for the people. But this is the quote he said. He said, he is no fool that loses that which he cannot keep. Because it looked like it was foolish for him to just not defend his life. But he knew that the life, he cannot keep this life because the life was in God's hands. So he said, he's no fool that he is no fool that he who cannot keep that is going to lose. There are certain things that we know that we're going to lose, and we don't have to fight so hard. We should learn to let go of certain things because they are meant not to last forever. Now, 18 says, now the three sons of Zeruiah were there, Joab and Abishai and Asahel. Now these were actually David's cousins. David's sister is the one who actually begot this guy, Joab. I think it's somewhere in Chronicles. Let me find it. Yeah, 1 Chronicles chapter 2 verses 16. First Chronicles 2:17. First Chronicles 2 verses 17 says, let's start with 15. It says, Ozem the sixth and David the seventh. Now they are telling us the generation of David's family. But let's start from actually verses 12. It says, Boaz begat Obed, and Obed begat Jesse. Jesse begat Eliab, his firstborn, Abinadab the second, Shimea the third, Nathanael the fourth, Redai the fifth, Ozem the sixth, and David the seventh. Now these are the 7 sons of Jesse. David is the last. But they don't mention about the daughters because in the past, women were not counted, so we don't know about them. They don't talk about them. Now we're going to know about David, these guys because of David. And then it says that, verses 16, now their sisters were Zeruiah and Abigail. The sons of Zeruiah were Abishai, Joab, and Asahel, the 3. Now, when we go back to 2 Samuel, where we've been, they've been mentioned. It has been said that, verses 18, it says, now the 3 sons of Zeruiah were there, Joab and Abishai and Asahel. So now Zeruiah, we know who Zeruiah is. Zeruiah is a sister of who? David. So these were again cousins. David, when he was running, I think most of his family members joined him in the struggle. So Joab becomes to be the army commander into the army of who? Of David. And on the other side, also Abner was the army commander of Saul's army, and also Abner was a cousin to who? To Saul. So here you see a bunch of family members on each side involved into the family affairs. You could call them the family affairs. So they are telling you what's happening here, that these guys were there. And it's important for you to know why they were there, because you see, they are fighting for their cousin. They say, our cousin is supposed to be the king. But you guys, you are depriving him of his rights. And we go to fight for his rights. Verses 19 says, so Asahel, verses 18 says, now the 3 sons of Zeruiah were there, Joab and Abishai and Asahel. And Asahel was a fleet of foot as a wild gazelle. So Asahel pursued Abner, and in going, he did not turn to the right hand or to the left from following Abner. Then Abner looked behind him and said, Are you Asahel? He answered, I am. And Abner said to him, turn aside to your right hand or to your left, and lay hold on one of the young men and take his armor for yourself. But Asahel would not turn aside from following him. So Abner said to Asahel, turn aside from following me. Why should I strike you to the ground? How then could I face your brother Joab? However, he refused to turn aside. Therefore Abner struck him in the stomach with the blunt end of the spear, so that the spear came out of his back, and he fell down there and died on the spot. So it was that as many came to the place where Asahel fell down and died, stood still. I don't know if Abner had known what was going to transpire. Had he known what would transpire, he wouldn't have invited these young men in the first place to compete for them. Because that which began as a small game actually is ending up to be one of the fiercest battles ever. He underestimated the situation. He misread the whole thing. Now, they've told us that this guy, Asahel, one of David's cousin, he was a runner. He was Usain Bolt. They say the guy could run as a gazelle. And he chased the army commander. And the guy was like, please stop chasing me. He's like, I'm not going to let go. You see, there are points where we have to let go on both sides. Here, Abner is asking the young man, please let go of me. Stop chasing. And the young man said, no, I'm not letting go. I'm going to keep on chasing you. Why? Because this young man knew a secret. And the secret is simple. Once you capture Abner, the war is over. Because Abner is the guy who's been keeping this whole thing going. But the moment you capture him or you kill him dead, then everything goes to normal. David comes and takes over the whole thing. Now when they were fighting, this young man only focused on who? Abner. He said, I'm going to get him. And Abner, when he saw this young man coming after him, he got on his donkey or horse and began going away. And the young man, it was a good sport to watch. This guy runs like a gazelle. Then he tells him, please turn aside from following me. Turn aside from, and say, why should I kill you? Why should I strike you to the ground? You see, Abner knows the outcome. He knows if this young man keeps on pursuing me, I have no choice, but I will just have to kill him. And I do not want to do this. Why? Because he knows Joab, the army commander of David's army, but also he knows that this young man is David's cousin. You see, when you kill him, you've gone close to the what? To the royal family. You've gone close to David. And then it cannot become personal. And he's trying to not do it. But this young man has to give him that chance not to do it. And he said, please let go. Stop it. Stop following me. Young man, this is for you. Sometimes as a young man, there are things that you pursue that you don't have to pursue actually. Or when you try to pursue them and truly they might be the right thing to pursue, but sometimes you don't have to pursue them. Sometimes you have to let them go and stop the pursuit. Here, Asahel, the young man, yes, he's so strong and he can run, and he's a young man who can run and he has the ability to run. But you know what? This is a dangerous pursuit. This is a pursuit that he needs to actually let go of. And the old man is telling him, young man, I'm an old man, I'm telling you, whatever it is that you are pursuing is going to kill you. Young men who are here today, what are those things that are actually right in your own mind that you feel like you are entitled to pursue them, but then they are dangerous pursuit for you? So to you young women, you come with these ambitions. This young man, Asahel, is ambitious. He's an ambitious young man. Do you know what it means to capture Abner? And then the news goes out, say, who captured Abner? They say, Asahel, the young man. The man gets glory. He gets the glory. Young men, what are those things that you are pursuing that you know at the end of the day, once you got them, you're going to get all the glory. You're going to get all the fame. You're going to get showered with love and gifts, but you know that, you know what? You are pursuing these things at the detriment of your own life. Are you taking heed to the warnings? Every one of us, there are signposts posted on our path. I'm not meaning this road that goes to Baita or to Kampala. All of us have a path in life. And each person, God has put signposts in our paths. And the signposts are there to help, to guide us, to help us to know, you know what? Here God is saying, do not turn here this week, because if you turn to this side, you're not going to get actually good things from this path. Stay on the straight path. Now this guy tells him, okay, if you really want to keep on pursuing me, at least get a shield. Because for him, when he was pursuing, he didn't have a spear, he didn't have a shield. This was a blind chase. He was ignorant. Yes, he was a hard pursuit, but it was not done out of wisdom. And it's true with young men, because our adrenaline runs so hard and so fast. Sometimes we do things because our adrenaline is pushing us to do those things. And you don't actually take time to think. You don't take time to prepare yourself for the pursuit. And you run that race unprotected. You run that race when you are so vulnerable. So is this young man here. He's very vulnerable. And the old man is telling him, you know what? You are vulnerable. Anytime I can kill you, at least get something so that you can defend yourself. But he does not listen. 23 says, however, he refused to turn aside. He told him, how will I face your brother? He refused. He left him with no choice. Verses 23 says, therefore Abner struck him in the stomach with the blunt end of the spear, so that the spear came through his back, and he fell down there and died on the spot. He could have saved himself. This death was avoidable. This death was unnecessary. This old man is smart. He knows what's gonna happen. Guys, listen up, young men. Listen to the old people, the older gentlemen, because they know what they are talking about. Even when you think they are wrong, sometimes they're speaking sense. Now, this young man is dead, and he died right there. Because he was chasing this guy, and I think he was on a horse. And all he did was put his spear backwards, and then he got pinned on it. Dead. If he had a shield, he could have put it there. He could have been saved. Young men, I see young men riding border so fast, so speedy, and with no helmets on their heads. What's wrong with you? And then you crash on something, and then you bang your head on the pavement, and you died right there. Driving unprotected, riding motorcycles unprotected, and then you are speeding so fast. Why? And then you have the helmet right there on your border, but you just make your border to wear it, but not you. Because you think it's for the cop. Or when you see the cop, then you grab it and then put it on. The moment he goes, you put it on and put it back on the thing. And drivers, you drive, but you don't put on seat belts. When you see the cop on the way, you just keep. The moment they go, you unbuckle. You just need one thing. You hit the brakes and you go through your car. Be smart. Think about your lives. Protect your lives. Because you see, you are more valuable when you are alive than when you are dead. Asahel was more productive when he's alive, but now he's dead. He's not productive to anyone. And you see, him being a first runner, he's not going to run in the grave. The wasted gifts. Young men, you waste gifts because you don't think very well. Think about your life. Think about how you can protect it. And then everybody stood still and they watched him there, bleeding to death. They watched him and they had nothing to do. No one can save him. "24. And Joab and Abishai also pursued Abner, and the sun was going down when they came to the hill of Ammah, which is before Giah, by the road to the wilderness of Gibeon. Now the children of Benjamin gathered together behind Abner and became a unit, and took their stand on top of a hill." Now, this is a civil war. The whole country now have joined in. You see, when you refuse to let go, you can pull in so many other people into your orbit that you shouldn't have pulled in. When you refuse to have that smooth transfer of power, you're going to cause a bloodbath. You see here, Saul refused to have that peaceful transfer of power. Now, it's passed on to us, to who? To Abner, and Abner's passed it on to who? To Ishbosheth, and now the whole country is at war. And you see, the lives of the young men at stake. They're dying. These are brothers pursuing each other. These are brothers killing each other. But it's because of not letting go. Now, for Joab to pursue Abner, it's no longer for the crown, but now it's personal. Joab is saying, I'm going to avenge for my brother. It's no longer about David now. Now it's about Asahel. Now also you see, the children of Benjamin, they also come and they gather behind Abner. They say, hey, this is our brother. If you want to war, come to war. You're going to first kill all of us. 26. Then Abner called to Joab and said, shall the sword devour forever? Do you not know that it will be bitter in the latter end? How long will it be then until you tell the people to return from pursuing their brethren? This is Abner, who called for this in the first place. I said, bring the young men to compete for us. Now the war has turned bitter for him. He's saying, let's stop this whole thing. You know, Trump, in a few months ago, he sent some of his hottest airplanes and they struck Iran. Really pretty good. And after that he said, peace. He called for peace immediately, but after striking the other people. How can you call for peace after striking me? Because you see, he does not want the retaliation. Now, Abner, he called for the strike, and the people have been killing each other, and now things have turned south. He's like, peace. He's waving the white flag. He said, peace. I don't want to fight anymore. We are brothers. Didn't you know when these 24 young men came and killed each other, they were killing brothers? He knew it. But now, because now they are pursuing him in person. Now, brothers, we are brothers, don't you see? Let's stop pursuing each other. Go, everybody go home. And say, Joab, tell your people to go home. We are brothers, we should not be fighting. He's being smart for his own good. He's tired because they've been chasing him for the whole day. So he's smart. To call for peace when you are tired is a smart move. And 27 says, and Joab said, as God lives, unless you had spoken surely, then by morning all the people would have given up pursuing their brethren. So Joab is saying, we were not ready to pursue you. Maybe until tomorrow, but not today. We are still ready to chase you. But since you have begged for mercy, since you've begged for ceasefire, we'll give you ceasefire. And then 28 says, so Joab blew a trumpet, and all the people stood still and did not pursue Israel anymore, nor did they fight anymore. The ceasefire worked. Then Abner and his men went on that night through the plain and crossed over Jordan and went through Bithron, and they came to Mahanaim. So Joab returned from pursuing Abner, and when he had gathered all people together, they were missing of David's servants 19 men and Asahel. 19 men and who? Asahel. But listen, 31. But the servants of David had struck down of Benjamin and Abner's men 360 men who died. You can now see how powerful Joab's army was. They lost only 20 people. On 20 people count, I'm sure even the 12 that fell there, because those didn't fight, it was just a reckless killing. So basically, they only had 8 who died in the real arms-to-arms conflict. This is how powerful they were. And then on the big side, they killed 301. How many? 60. And we know how many these guys are. David has only 600 men. But they've been battle-hardened. For all these 20 years, they've been fighting different people. They know all the skills of fighting. So these guys, they didn't know who they were actually messing with. I remember back then when I was a young man, I was in Rwanda. I was living with some guys, and there's this guy. We used to call him Nako, meaning like these real knuckles. Now, Nako, but his real name was called Seguya. But the code name is Nako because he was punching the bag so hard that all these knuckles were blackened. So I always say, you know what, Nako? I really don't fear you. I can fight you anytime you want. And I disrespected him all the time. Until one day, we met inside the house. There was a storage for the garage that we were working for. And because him and I had this thing, so we got into a brawl, we got into a fight. But I remember what happened that day. And I want to tell you what happened. I will not tell you what happened, because what happened is the guy, he hit me so hard and I saw stars. And I got up and I said, it's over. I don't want to fight anymore. Now, I was messing with someone who was more skilled than me. I was just this little tough guy, but I was not a fighter. I had never gone to any gym, but this guy, all his life, he grew up in a gym throwing them punches, and he was in the streets fighting all the time. But because I'm like, yo bro, I'm also from the ghetto, and I know what it's like to be a ghetto boy, don't mess with me. But I knew I was just, until I got hit, and he gave me my level. Now, Abner, they've given him his level. This is where you belong, Abner. You've lost 360. Look, we've only lost 8 because the other 12, they just died there recklessly. We've been fighting, Abner. We've been killing Philistines and the Amorites and all these other people for 20 years. And then you're coming and messing with us. And we're going to show you the real game, bro. Listen. Manya size yo. Know your size. Don't be like me. Everybody know your size. Know that, you know what? This one I can go into a fight with them. And know that if I go, hand to hand with this guy, I'm going to lose. And 32 says, then they took Asahel and buried him in his father's tomb, which is in Bethlehem. And Joab and his men went all night. And they came to Hebron at daybreak. I'm going to end with chapter 3, verses 1, because it's very important. I feel like it ties in with this one. It says, now there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. But David grew stronger and stronger, and the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. Why? Because they were just elongating the inevitable. We can elongate the inevitable, but inevitable will eventually hit. Yes, the war was long, but we know where the what? We know how it's gonna end. And Satan, the devil, is also elongating the inevitable. We know how it's gonna end. We know that we're going to win the devil. We know that it's going to be cast in the lake of fire. And we know that God is going to create a new earth and a new heaven, and everything will be new. But the devil is going to keep on fighting. He's going to keep on fighting the kingdom of God. But we know that the kingdom of the devil is already on a losing side. They're going to lose. The kingdom of God will be established. And it will remain forever and ever and ever. And this is what the devil does. Because they know that David is going to be the what? The father of who? Jesus. All of it is boiling down to a snake pressure. You know what a snake pressure is? A snake pressure is Genesis 3 verses 16. Through the woman's seed will crush the serpent's head. Now the serpent is always trying to fight that. It says not what? Crushed. Because now God is going to use the house of David to establish a kingdom that's going to be from everlasting to everlasting. And when Jesus came, he said he's the son of David. Now this whole thing, the Abner and the Ishbosheth, these are the fake kings that come from the fake kingdom of Satan, who come to fight the real kingdom of God, that it may not be established, but it will be established and it will stand. The devil is a loser, and he will keep on losing. May God bless you and keep you.